We continue to monitor the arrival of world leaders and heads of state at OR Tambo International Airport. This, of course, ahead of the G20 Leaders Summit that's happening over the weekend, starting, in fact, on Saturday. These are live visuals, as we've been saying, from OR Tambo International Airport. That is the main airport of South Africa, right here in Johannesburg. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's plane has just touched down. A few moments ago, of course, the plane, there written in blue, Royal Australian Air Force, just landed a short while ago. In fact, we saw visuals there of the press from Australia disembarking the plane, allowing, of course, the official ceremony then to begin. As you see there, side by side, Australian and South African flags, and of course the procession there by the South African Defence Force, welcoming the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He is going to disembark any moment now. He hasn't just yet. Just a short while ago, before leaving Australia, in fact, he did issue out a statement about his expectations about just what the G20 means for a country like Australia. Of course, he's been Prime Minister, in fact, of Australia since the 23rd of May, 2022. And like many other leaders that are coming to South Africa that have confirmed to attend this particular G20, he has indicated that it is a good opportunity to hold one-on-one meetings with other foreign leaders. We can't see at this stage who is going to be meeting him. But earlier on, of course, we know that some leaders have already started coming through to South Africa ahead of that all-important meeting. He is expected, we understand from the reports coming out of Australia, to meet a number of leaders, and those essentially that have been named include his Indian counterpart, Narendra Modi, who's also been confirmed to be attending that G20 summit. Of course, the reports that he'll be having conversations too with countries like Korea, Japan, and of course Canada. These are all leaders that have confirmed their attendance to the G20 Leader Summit. Of course, he is expected to be here for all of 3 days as those engagements continue. There you see, of course, the procession of vehicles, and I see that he will be greeted with South African entertainment, dancers there, as well as just giving that cultural presentation that South Africa is all too well known for. And we've been seeing those scenes of dance and culture essentially very prominent at some of these summits that have been happening in the last couple of days, including the social summit that just wrapped up today, as well as the B20, just giving those world leaders, whether it be heads of state or business leaders, leaders from the civil society, just a sense of what South Africa is all about. Of course, it is a momentous occasion for South Africa. We've heard too from President Cyril Ramaphosa reiterating that this is the first G20 presidency on the African continent, and of course led by South Africa. I have on the line, just monitoring these proceedings with me, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, International Relations Analyst. Dr. Heerden, a very good afternoon to you. So, of course, we know that several world leaders will be arriving today. Early on, we saw the European Union leaders also coming through. Just talk to us about just the significance of this moment for South Africa, and particularly the relationship between South Africa and Australia. We do understand, of course, that this is essentially the first time that a Prime Minister from Australia is basically arriving here in South Africa in more than a decade. Just the significance of today as Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is about to disembark.
No, very, very significant. I mean, as you know, Nati, it's not just about the G20 being held for the first time on the African continent, but it's also going to be, because of that reality, it's also going to be the first time that this many global leaders are going to be putting foot on the African soil together in one venue. And I think that in itself is quite a significant achievement. I think that the Ramaphosa administration is going to welcome all of these leaders with open arms, especially in lieu of the fact that one of the key participants, that being of the United States of America, has decided, unfortunately, to boycott this G20, the first to take place in Africa. I think it's very unfortunate that the Trump administration has done so, but it makes it even more significant that other members of not only the G20, but also the G7 are going to be here with Ramaphosa.
Yeah, I mean, just moments before he left Australia, he talked about just how significant it will be for him to engage with other world leaders. He was, quoted as saying that being part of the G20 helps build a stronger, more resilient global economy, which benefits all Australians at home too. Quite significant, of course, is that Australia, like South Africa, has also been at the brunt of those USA tariffs. I mean, we saw how the USA sent those tremors around the world with its altering trade terms and tariffs. There we see the Prime Minister descending the plane, and of course, he will be met with a South African representative momentarily. And we understand, of course, that is the Communications Technology Minister, Soli Malatsi, who is meeting with the Prime Minister. Of course, Cyril Ramaphosa, quite busy today, having a very packed schedule. He had just been addressing the B20 as well as the social summit. Let's see if we can bring you some natural sound and listening. To hear what they are saying there. Doc, just, on the statements that I've just made now in terms of how earlier this year, many countries, of course, received all of these tariff shocks by the USA. Of course, the United States of America will not be attending this G20. I think Donald Trump has made that categorically clear. So those engagements, then, one would imagine, will be about talking about key issues, essentially, that are, part of South Africa's key priorities. Multilateralism is something that also President Cyril Ramaphosa kept on stressing during his addresses today.
Yeah, no, Nati, I think what is important for the viewers to know is that the significance of this G20 is not lost on these global leaders. They want to be part of it. They want to show their support for Africa, for the global South. They know that the group of 20, as Trump and Bassett has reminded us from the Oval Office, is about the 20 largest economies in the world, but they are keen and they are sensitive enough to know that they cannot operate in a world without Africa, without the third world, and certainly without the global South. And I think, as you rightfully say, because everyone has been on the receiving end of the bully called Trump, I think that they are going to rally behind South Africa and Ramaphosa to say not that they are anti-Trump or anti the US,
Yeah.
but they are saying that we are no longer going to be bullied and we need to recognize that issues of sustainability, equality, and what's the other word?
Sustainability,
Solidarity
solidarity, yeah.
and equality are actually important in the multilateral global system.
Yeah, and I want to just hang on that point in terms of the United States of America. I mean, one of the things that President Cyril Ramaphosa reiterated today is that South Africa will not be bullied and that there will be a declaration that will come out of this G20 leader summit. I mean, how significant a point is he making here? Because essentially, having sent that letter Trump was essentially bullying South Africa into saying that, well, we will not be supporting any declaration that comes out of this particular summit. And if that happens, Dr. van Heerden, that would essentially be the first time, that there is no declaration from such a summit.
Yeah, look, Trump is playing politics. Let's be very clear. He had made sure, his administration has made sure that some of his government officials participate in the various, Sherpas and the meetings that have been taking place throughout the year. They were part of those agreements. They inputted in those agreements. They even inputted into the declaration, the leaders' declaration that is supposed to come out on Sunday. Yeah. They have made it very clear that certain words they don't like, we must change things. And now at the very, very last minute, they want to claim that they are not going to be part of this declaration and so on. It's politics that's being played, and I think Ramaphosa is right to challenge that. You cannot boycott and then still want to dictate what should and should not happen.
And one of those words is, inequality as well as equity. I mean, how important then is the inequality report that was in fact commissioned by South Africa, that will then be also discussed pretty much by these world leaders, that speaks about, that 1% of the world's wealthiest increased, their wealth by 41% in just 5 years. It just, again, talks about how the rich continue to be richer, and while the poor remain poor. In fact, that was a comment that was also made by one of the South African citizens when one of our reporters was asking them on the ground, what do they think, about the G20. And this is a South African citizen who is unemployed saying, well, what does that mean for me in terms of equality? What does that mean in terms of unemployment? Pertinent questions, which then leads to this report that was commissioned by South Africa, which is very pertinent to just show and illuminate how unequal this world has become or continues to be.
Yeah, Nati, we were together at the social summit of the G20 a few days ago, where NGOs, CBOs, ordinary people, through various organized formations, were also contributing and saying that they are wanting to have a say in this. They understand the connection between the big, the strategic, and what happens locally on the street for ordinary people. And I think that link is so, so important. This is what President Ramaphosa and the South African government, through their presidency, is wanting to relate to the wealthiest economies in the world. We need to have a conversation that includes the downtrodden, the poor, the unequal. Otherwise, the world is not going to be a better place all around. And it seems that Trump and his cohorts just don't want to see it that way.
Absolutely, Doc. And I mean, you and I, as well as the rest of the SABC team, will continue speaking to you and other analysts, at that Leaders Summit, and we'll continue then to get your reflections in terms of just how significant a moment this is, not only for South Africa, but also for the African continent. Thank you so much for your time. That was International Relations Analyst, Dr. Oscar van Heerden.